Chapter 8, Ancient Greece, Section 2, Alexander the Great. We're going to start by talking about a kingdom just to the north of the Greek city-states called Macedonia. On the map here that we have on the right, this blue area right here is called Macedonia. It might have spread a little bit more than that, but that's Macedonia. Here are the Greek city-states down here. Macedonia was ruled by a king named Philip II. Philip II knew a little bit about the Greek city-states because he once was a prisoner of a Greek city-state called Thebes, which is right there. And while a prisoner, he witnessed how well a paid professional army works. So when he got out and went back to Macedonia, he organized a well-trained army that used new battle formations, such as a cavalry, that means a soldier on horseback, an infantry, that's foot soldier, and the use of catapults and battering rams. As we talked in the last section, after the Peloponnesian War, the Greek city-states were weak. Sparta and Athens had fought for 10 years, and both of them got weak, and the surrounding city-states that supported either side grew extremely weak as well. So that was the perfect opportunity for Philip II to come down and conquer the Greek city-states, again, because they were too weak and too disorganized to fight. So he already had Macedonia, and he conquered all of Greece, and he was starting to build this Macedonian empire when he was assassinated at his daughter's wedding in 326 BC. So after Philip was killed, his son Alexander will take over the Macedonian kingdom. Now, he wanted to attack Persia because that was the common enemy of the Greeks, but there were some rebellions going on in the Greek city-states, especially Thebes, and Alexander had to go down there first and crush the city-state of Thebes. And when he did that, all the other Greek city-states who were kind of rebelling decided to follow Alexander peacefully. And so then Alexander can focus on Persia. Alexander will attack the Persians over in Anatolia, and he will defeat them. After that, he goes down to Egypt, and he conquers Egypt without any kind of war. And the Egyptians made him the pharaoh. After that, he captures the capital city of Persia, which was Persepolis. And by that time, he was able to control the entire Persian Empire in 331 BC. Persia, that's the first time they actually really kind of were conquered by any opposing enemy. So Alexander so far has conquered the Greek city-states, Anatolia, Egypt, and now Persia. In 326 BC, Alexander will go to the Indus River Valley, as we've talked about that in ancient India, and he will go into a battle there and defeat the queen, who is the ruler of that particular land. But during the middle of the battle, Alexander is shot with an arrow. Now, he removed the arrow, and he wanted to continue further. So he wanted to go even further than India to conquer some more land. However, his men, who had been fighting with him for over 10 years and had not been home for 10 years, wanted to go home. And so his men refused to continue on. And so Alexander was forced to turn around. In 323 BC, Alexander makes it to Babylon. In Babylon, he starts to get sick from the battle wound. His wounds got infected, and he got really sick, and he died. He created the largest empire of the time and is remembered as Alexander the Great. Now, if you look at the map, you can see all in the yellow how large his empire was. So here is Macedonia over here in Greece, and it spread all the way to the Indus River over here in India and down to Egypt. That's a really large empire. His empire was divided after his death among three of his key generals. So it'll be kind of divided in three parts. As Alexander went to new places, he spread the Greek culture. He built cities and named many of them after himself. For example, in Egypt, we have Alexandria, named after himself. There's a city in Persia, it's called Alexandropolis, named after himself. He also named things after objects or people that he knew. For example, there's a city called Bucephalus, named after his horse. So that's an example of him trying to spread the Greek culture to these cities. By conquering all this land, Greek became the common language. Just like English is the common language around the world today, Greek was the common language back then. Alexander adopted many of the customs of the places he conquered. So, like, he adopted some Egyptian culture, some Greek culture, Persian, and Indian. The blending of these four different types of culture became known as Hellenistic culture, named after Helen of Troy. Alexandria became the most famous of the Hellenistic cities. We talked about Alexandria when we talked about ancient Egypt. It's right at the mouth of the Nile River. Two main things that you find in Alexandria. The Temple of the Muses, or the Library of Alexandria, was there, and it contained many of the major collections of text, Greek and Roman texts, in this library. The second one is considered one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. This enormous lighthouse could be seen from 35 miles away. Up here at the top, you use the sun's reflection on mirrors that were established, or I shouldn't say sun. There's a flame inside here, and there's mirrors all around that top part, which reflected the flame of the fire for 35 miles away. The reason why that lighthouse is needed is because this area is really rocky right around the mouth of the Nile River. That is the end of section 2.